Robert Sarver, the owner of the Phoenix Suns, as well as the Phoenix Mercury, who was suspended for a year by the NBA, as well as fined $10 million for misconduct, talking about workplace misconduct. There were talks of he used, racial words. He made use of sexist words as well. The N word was used at least 5 different times. Remember, the NBA launched an investigation last year, November, and after 10 months, with over 320 people interviewed and over 80,000 documents reviewed, you had Robert Sarver, fined and suspended yesterday. But those punishments or those measures of punishment hasn't sat well with so many players. One of the leading voices has to be the king himself, Lebron James, who has voiced his opposition to the punishment meted out to Robert Sarver, saying that the league definitely deserves to do better, and the various accusations and workplaces, various accusations and conduct of Robert Sarver demands more punishment, as it were. Sarver has been in charge of the Phoenix Suns and the Mercury for 18 years, and it's time during the 18 years he was in charge, or he's been in charge rather, because he still owns the franchises. It's been characterized by racist, sexist, and bullying conducts. So for all of these, LeBron James is calling for stiffer punishments. Remember, in 2014, you had the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers at the time, Donald Sterling, who was recorded using a racist remark, and as a result, the NBA banned him for life and also forced him to sell the Los Angeles Clippers as of 2014. So you have LeBron James calling out for such measures to be meted. And it's not only LeBron James, you also have, surprisingly, Chris Paul. Chris Paul is a very good friend of LeBron James. In fact, his best friend, it must be said. And Chris Paul is a player of the Phoenix Suns. In other words, he's an employee of Robert Sarver, who has served as a two-time president for the NBA Players Association, and is calling as well for stiffer punishment for his employer, as it were, as a result of the conduct, saying that the league deserves better, and also pouring out his heart to all those who were affected. Well, let's see how that pans out. It will be intriguing to see if the NBA decides to review its punishment on Robert Sarver. Now, let's delve into it. Yes, it has to do with football, and we have to start with the action that we saw last night, talking about the UEFA Champions League, Europe's biggest paying competition when it comes to club football. And you had in England, Manchester City against Borussia Dortmund. That's a match that everyone was looking forward to because it was a reunion for Erling Haaland, and they did live up to the billing in terms of hitting the party. He did come to the party, scoring the winner against his former club Borussia Dortmund. Remember, he sealed a £51 million move from Borussia Dortmund to Manchester City this season, and courtesy of that winning strike last night, he has taken his tally to 13 goals in 9 matches for Manchester City. Needless to say, he has settled in well to life at Manchester. So the match itself, it was a match where Borussia Dortmund were real chances that they missed, especially in the first half of the game. Manchester City lacked the rhythm. They were not just into it, while for Borussia Dortmund, they had chances to really get going. Marcus Reyes coming close before Jude Bellingham scored that wonderful header off a Marcus Reyes cross to give Borussia Dortmund the lead. But when you talk about stunning goals, it was all on display over the last 10 minutes of that match, as you had John Stones scoring a stunner from outside the box with his right foot to level terms for Manchester City. And just 6 minutes after, you had that beautiful pass from João Cancelo out of the boot, you want to call it the Rabona pass, you want to call it, to Erling Haaland, who scored the acrobatic winner. And as a result, the debate is on which is more beautiful. Is it the pass from João Cancelo or the finish by Erling Haaland? Regardless of the side of the divide you choose, what's beautiful is that Manchester City earned this win, and it's well deserved. And it was beautiful to see, especially having gone, a goal down. The resilience of the team was right there on display. And for Pep Guardiola, the win marks his 95th win in the UEFA Champions League in 150 games. Yes, 150 games managed in the UEFA Champions League, 95 wins from those 150 games. No coach, with the exception of the duo of Sir Alex Ferguson, who has 102 wins, as well as Carlo Ancelotti of Real Madrid with 100 wins, have won more matches in the history of the UEFA Champions League. So you have Pep Guardiola sitting third, and definitely that's a legends list when you consider the heroics and contribution of the likes of Sir Alex Ferguson as well as Carlo Ancelotti to, the development of football as a whole. So Pep Guardiola is in good company, or rather joins a good company, if you want to call it that. For Manchester City, the win takes them top of the table, and they're 6 points, 2 points from 6 points rather from 2 games, and that underlines their title credentials in terms of going one step further than they did in 2020 to claim the title. Remember, they lost the 2021 Champions League title to Chelsea Football Club, losing that by lone goal, Kai Havertz scoring the only goal of that game. Well, let's move away from Manchester City's win over Borussia Dortmund and talk about another team that is gunning for the title, and that's the Paris Saint-Germain team. That's the French team. The project, right from the onset when they signed Neymar for that world record fee of £200 million, which still stands till date, was to win the UEFA Champions League. And right now it's a star-studded, lineup, especially in the offensive outlets with Neymar, Mbappe, as well as Lionel Messi lining up for Paris Saint-Germain. They took on Maccabi Haifa away from home, and it was a shock lead for Maccabi Haifa, who scored within the first 23 minutes of the game. But you had Lionel Messi restoring parity just before halftime, and Mbappe and Neymar concluded scoring. So for the trio of M&M, if you want to call it that, Messi, Mbappe, Neymar, it's another goal, another match where all three of them have scored. This is the second time in this season that they've been able to achieve that. Last season, they were only able to achieve that once. So it shows improvement, and Christopher Gautier's side are definitely in the running when it comes to winning the UEFA Champions League this season. You want to consider them as one of the top teams to make it count in terms of lifting the trophy. 6 points as well from a maximum 6, and you believe that the M&M, rather, Messi, Mbappe, Neymar, are in the form of their lives to lead Paris Saint-Germain to its first ever UEFA Champions League. We'll see how that pans out in the coming days. We'll move on from there now and talk about Real Madrid. Yes, the defending champions are on course for Alapo 15. Well, if you want to call it that for the Spanish faithfuls, or you just call it their 15th UEFA Champions League title. They won the 14th a few months back with a 1-0 win over Liverpool. This time around, it was against RB Leipzig. It was a difficult game. Karim Benzema still nursing that injury, and you had Vinicius Jr. leading the line once again. But you had Federico Valverde as well as Marco Asensio getting the goals for Real Madrid. Asensio's strike coming deep into stoppage time to ensure that Real Madrid ran out 2-0 winners. It was not as easy as it seemed. You had RB Leipzig also having chances far in between, but Luka Modric ran the strings in the middle of the park, and Valverde proving once again that is definitely a midfielder to reckon with when it comes to the defensive, positions in the middle of the park as well as offensive. That left foot caller was beautiful to see, and you had Marco Asensio wrapping it up. So Real Madrid as well starting their title defense on a good note from the 3-0 thumping of Celtic at Glasgow last week. They backed it up with another impressive win against RB Leipzig at home, 2-0 that ended. Their next match will be against Shakhtar Donetsk, who were only able to get a draw against Celtic, 1-1 that ended. I'm sure Real Madrid are also one of the favorites for this year's UEFA Champions League title. Still talking about teams that won yesterday. In Group C, you had AC Milan in action at home against Dynamo Zagreb, and that was a match where the Rossoneri ran out 3-1 winners. It was a comfortable win, 2-0 at some point. You had Dynamo Zagreb through Osijek having the deficit before, Popega also scored another goal to restore the 2-goal cushion for AC Milan as they ran out comfortable winners. For AC Milan, they're back in the mix of the big boys, and the defending champions of the Italian Serie A will be hoping to make it count this time around, going a step further than they did last time out in the UEFA Champions League. Olivier Giroud gets in the goal, Alexis Salamakers also gets in the goal, as well as Popega, just as I mentioned earlier, scoring the goals for AC Milan. And let's see how they fare in the group. The top of the standings, the group has Chelsea Football Club in there, and you also have Salzburg, not forgetting Dynamo Zagreb. It's AC Milan with 4 points from a possible 6, having drawn their first match away at Salzburg. Well, still talking about that particular group, Group C, you have Chelsea Football Club at home against Salzburg, and that was a match that had everything on the line because it was the debut of Graham Potter, the new coach of Chelsea Football Club. And the players, as well as the fans especially, were all out to look out for the caliber of football that will be played on display. Talking about, is it an attacking football? How is it going to be in terms of the fluid movement of the ball and the players on and off it? All of that question marks were raised afterwards as Chelsea ended up playing a stalemate against Salzburg. 1-1 that ended. Raheem Sterling scoring once again, showing that he's probably Chelsea's go-to man this season, scoring once again for Chelsea to put them in the lead. But you had Okafor backing up his heroics against AC Milan to restore parity for Salzburg, and that ended 1-1. Remember, Okafor, of Nigerian origin, was the one who also gave Salzburg the lead against AC Milan last week. So he has 2 goals from 2 games. For Chelsea Football Club, it's a disappointing start to the Graham Potter regime, or era as it were. More importantly is question marks regards the quality of certain players and the kind of play. Again, he's just new on the job. It will probably take time for him to settle in and for the players to adapt to his style of play in terms of tactics, tactical setup, as well as how the players make their moves on and off the ball. But it will be intriguing to see how that pans out in the coming days. But for Chelsea Football Club, they have just a point from a possible 6. Remember, they lost the first game of the UEFA Champions League season last week to Dynamo Zagreb by a lone goal, and this draw has done them no good as they have 1 point from 2 games and are currently at the bottom of the group. It's also worrisome for them because they will be taking on AC Milan next, and those are the top 2 teams when it comes to Group C. And you would expect that AC Milan will prove a more formidable opposition than the likes of Dynamo Zagreb as well as RB Salzburg. So should they fail to defeat AC Milan over the course of the next 2 games, then it's possible that Chelsea may be staring at an early exit. But that's still a tall order as they have 2 matches against AC Milan. Let's see how it pans out. But right now, Chelsea are at the bottom of that group, and Graham Potter will be demanding more from the team. He now knows the enormous task that he has to fill.